Hello everyone, my name is Pauline, and in this video, we are exploring one of the biggest ethical and economic questions in science: the economic divide in bioinformatics, open science versus corporate control. Now, bioinformatics connects biology and computing. It helps us read the language of our life: DNA, proteins, and genetic blueprints that make us who we are. But as this field drives breakthroughs in medicine and technology, a divide is emerging. Some scientists push for openness and global collaboration, while others protect their data and methods for profit. Now, isn't just a technical issue. Um, it's about who gets to innovate and who is left behind. Over the next several minutes, we'll look into where this divide comes from, what it means for science today, and how we can bridge it ethically. Now, let's start with the basics. What exactly is bioinformatics? Now, it's an interdisciplinary field combining biology and statistics and computer science to analyze biological data at a massive scale. It's used in areas like drug discovery, genetic testing, and personalized medicine. Now, each human DNA can be has three up to 3 billion base pairs, and that's roughly 1 gigabyte of data. So with inf- so with information becoming the lifeblood of science, the key question becomes who controls the information. The answer determines how discoveries are shared or sometimes how they are restricted. Now, this tension is rooted in two opposing philosophies: open science and corporate control. Open science is the movement to make data, results, and tools freely accessible. It's built on transparency and collaboration, the idea that if everyone can access knowledge, global progress speeds up. Proprietary research, on the other hand, keeps data and results private within an individual or an organization. It's designed to create insights that only that group or its partners can use. Now, the conflict then is between collective progress and competitive profit. Both have their merits, but when secrecy prevents replication or creates inequality, the integrity of the science itself is at stake. Now, ownership plays a huge role in how research is done, especially through patents on genes and software. So let's begin with gene ownership. So before 2013, companies could actually patent sections of the human DNA, at least in the US. And one of the most famous examples was the Myriad Genetics case, which is a company that claimed patents on the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes, which is a tumor suppressing gene whose are key indicators for hereditary breast and ovarian cancer. Now, the company's control meant that anyone who wanted to test for those genes had to go through the company, and the test could cost thousands of dollars. So in 2013, the US Supreme Court actually ruled that naturally occurring DNA cannot be patented because it's a discovery, not an invention. However, artificial DNA, also known as cDNA, is still free for patenting. And that decision broke Myriad's monopoly and reduced test prices dramatically. And after that ruling as well, companies changed its focus. Instead on patenting, Instead of patenting natural genes, it focused on developing artificial GMO and artificial genes, as well as focusing on patenting bioinformatics software instead, which is the algorithm that interpreted genetic data. So companies like 23andMe, Invitae, and Color Genomics hold patents on their risk analysis tools, variant interpretation pipelines. The logic and data behind these systems are often confidential, and researchers can see the output but not the progress. So as a result, there is like a black box happening wherein the research wherein researchers cannot see what the process is like, and as a result, science shifts from open inquiry to implicit trust, and transparency, one of the core values of research, gets lost. So, privatizing research data affects science in several ways. One impact is economic, wherein proprietary bioinformatics software and databases can cost more than a small lab's yearly budget. So, it's sequencing being a costly endeavor. despite it being cheaper in the recent years, acquiring data from scratch would not be an option for a majority of researchers. And this keeps cutting edge research in the hands of more well funded institutions or private companies, while smaller, more developing regions are left dependent on limited and possibly more outdated tools. Another effect is on data inequality. So, because sequencing requires massive investment, most genetic data comes from wealthy regions, mainly Europe and North America. So, it's actually studied that roughly 4 out of 5 available genomes represent European ancestry. That means that genetic models are less accurate for populations in Africa, Asia, Latin America, depending on global health inequities, deepening global health inequities. And there's also the issue of transparency, where if the algorithms that analyze our genome are proprietary, no one outside the company can reproduce or challenge the result. So, in short, research privatization concentrates on knowledge, narrows diversity, and weakens reproducibility, allow all of which slow progress rather than protect it. So these concerns aren't just theoretical and they're playing out now. So take 23andMe for instance. It's one of the largest direct to consumer DNA testing companies with DNA from over 15 million people, where customers can send in a saliva sample and get ancestry and health risk reports. But once the data is processed, it's stored in the company's private system and can be used in partnerships, for example, with GlaxoSmithKline, a major pharmaceutical firm. So while 23andMe's research may lead to medical advancements, the data itself isn't publicly accessible, and scientists outside the company again cannot validate the models. And individuals as well who provided their DNA are at risk of their information being stolen um, or having a data breach. So this example further illustrates the broader dilemma that the same forces that drive innovation can also centralize control. So, does this mean that privatization should be prohibited? Well, not necessarily. So, both open and proprietary corporate control brings values. So, open science can create global collaboration and accountability, where major projects like Human Genome Project and Open Targets show how freely shared data multiplies discoveries and allows smaller labs to contribute meaningfully. It also encourages replication, which is the foundation of scientific reliability. But we can't ignore the reality that proprietary research or corporate control as well drives much of our rapid innovation. For example, a clear example is the COVID-19 vaccine race, where firms like Pfizer and Moderna competed for the first effective mRNA vaccine. And because of patent protection for their lipid delivery systems, it motivated billions in investment and really helped compress a decade of research into under a year. So you can see similar effects in genome sequencing, competition among companies like Illumina and BGI having drastically lowered sequencing costs worldwide. So, how do we keep science innovative but fair? So, there are few realistic strategies that we can combine. So, one approach is to strengthen global data framework like GenBank and the European Bioinformatics Institute. So, these databases follow FAIR principles, which is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. So another solution is what we call hybrid access models. So in this system, academic researchers use data freely for education and nonprofit work, while commercial users should pay structured licensing fees. And finally, we need global investments in bioinformatics infrastructure and training as well, with programs like H3 Africa showing how funding local computing centers and training next generation bioinformaticians can improve data diversity. So to wrap up, bioinformatics isn't only about decoding genes, but it's also how we share knowledge in the 21st century. So because we are in an era where DNA is data, our task is now simple but urgent, which is to ensure that code of life remains not a commodity, but a shared language of discovery. Thank you.